Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Football Inc. We are back. It's your Saturday show. I hope your weekend has started tastily. I'm here with my main man, Jonny 83232. We'll welcome you in a second. But first of all, I've got to find out how this guy is. Jonny, how are you, my man? Lots of things going on.
All good. It's a little bit more bearable today. The clouds come over. Yesterday was hot. I think we're just about to kick off. I think, all the chomping at the bit. There's stuff happening. We've got movement, and that big blockage that we were talking about yesterday with some of the clubs, namely Man United, at the beginning, could set off the domino effect now. And let's get going. And to everyone who's in here, good to see you in here, joining us again for our daily chat.
100%. Guys, please do us all a favour, like you're taking your shoes off. Smash the granny out of the like button. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Let us know where you're from and who you support. And, participate in the conversation because we've got loads of things to talk about. Mate, let's start with Manchester United. We've been talking about them for the last couple of weeks, really. They seem to be linked with all in sundry. They clearly have massive intentions to make that pivot down the bottom of the V. I think Lucky Singh, we know Lucky Singh is a United fan, I believe. Yeah. Or is he a Liverpool fan? I think he's a United fan. Good to see you, mate. That they are they've got ambitions to throw the money around once they can. But until now, as we won't sort of rehash it over too much. But obviously they're linked with everybody, but they can't get anybody really in until they can finally get someone out the door. Now we know how many players that they have that they want to get rid of. And we were talking about this a few weeks back, saying, why are they focusing on the top end of the pitch? Don't get me wrong. It's certainly a priority area for improvement, but surely the guy at the back is one of the biggest liabilities. And it's taken a little bit of time, but Onana and the names about replacements are starting to percolate. But again, nothing can be done until they start getting some money in. And today it looks like that Onana, that apparently all that needs to happen is a conversation with regards getting the clarification for his interest and intentions to move to Monaco, who are the main suitors for his signature. Monaco have expressed an interest and are willing to meet the fee. It's just whether or not Onana wants to leave the club. Now, how do you feel as a fan of football? Not a Man United fan. Is it if you're looking at the situation, if you're Onana, do you go, I'm not wanted at United anymore, so maybe I need to take a little backward step. Maybe I need to go down to a different level. Not a bad level. And by the way, tax-free money out in Monaco, beautiful women and casinos galore. It's not a bad life, is it? Eric Dyer's gone there.
Yeah, listen, I think for him, when you're hounded out and you get so much bad press, I think it's only right that he goes out there. I mean, as I said, it might not be Man United, but Monaco's got a lot of history. It's a great place if you're going to play football. As you say, tax-free haven, lots going on, big money, and he's in demand, and they want him there. So I think it's a move that's perfect for him. And the funny thing is that you and I were talking about goalkeepers before, while everybody else was talking about strikers and wingers. You and I have been talking about this obvious elephant in the room, which doesn't seem to be being addressed. And if it is being addressed, great news for Man United fans, and even better news with the player that's coming in.
Well,
desperate to come in.
Desperate to come in, but the Guardian here, and listen, the Guardian, is what it is. They're one of the kind of at least more respected journalists. I'd rather read a story from them and take it with a lesser a pinch of salt than what I'm happy to do with my Tottenham links. But according to the Guardian, Onana doesn't want to leave. He's doing the Richarlison, mate. He's doing the Richarlison. He's not wanted, but he ain't leaving. And this is another problem. Another problem.
Listen, I think the thing is, he can say he's not leaving, but there's no way Amorim wants him there. As I said, he dropped him a couple of games last season. We all know he needs a better goalkeeper, and Martinez is levels above Onana. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah. He's desperate to leave. He stated he wanted to leave Aston Villa earlier on in the season. And what better way to do that than at Man United? Bigger club, linking up with Amorim. I think it's what Man United need. They need to start building from the back. Lindelof's gone. Maguire's on his way out. They got Euro, who's a very good player. And I think they need to start building up from that back. And this is it. The thing is, how much will Manchester United have to pay? How much will they have to pay to get Martinez out? Will he force his way out? They might probably want to sell him to Saudi, but he's not going to have any of that. No chance.
100%, mate. Let's stick in with the Manchester United story here. So we're going to come back. We're going to do a little bit of weaving here and going to come back to this whole thing. But essentially, there's a couple other stories right now in the Man United space. Manchester United's Anthony. But let me get this up on the screen for everyone so I can show you I'm not making it up.
A deal with Real Betis, aren't they?
They are trying to do a deal, yeah. And it's a surprise Serie A escape route has been as the winger because Betis are not able to pay the bill. I think let's have a look. Serie A side Como have reportedly emerged as a surprise contender to sign Manchester United winger Anthony. The 25-year-old has failed to live up to expectations since he joined in an £85 million deal after being deemed surplus to requirements. Anthony was sent out to Real Betis. Anthony has made it clear to United that his first priority is to complete a return to Betis ahead of the 25-26 season. Betis supporters are keen for Anthony to return, and they're working on a deal, although the two clubs are yet to reach an agreement over a deal. Is this one of those situations, mate, where, let's start with him. We've got a Marcus Rashford story as well to come to, but just with regards to Anthony, 85 million quid. I think a lot of that's going to be amortized off the books already, right? So into whatever they can get in is going to essentially help them out in their initial spend, even though it's obviously a write down on the loss of the player. Yeah. But if they can't come to a deal, how do you perceive this to be? Do you perceive Manchester United to be holding out for unreasonable money? Or do you think that Betis are just taking advantage of the situation, knowing that Man United have got this, that, and the other players that they want to bring in, but until one of these guys leaves, it's just, you can't get in. You can't get into the bar for a drink.
Everyone's got Man United over a barrel. And it's a mess of their own making. You can say, it was the last board who got us into this trouble, but the facts are the facts. And you're paying him a huge amount of wages that would no way ever be able to be matched by Real Betis. They're nowhere near that league. They're not even a giant of Spanish football. So he's going to play hardball, and he's going to say, well, I want to go to Real Betis, so you're going to have to pay the majority of the money. The interesting thing is actually Como with Cesc Fabregas have got money. They've got money. They're trying to build that club up to make it a big team in Italy. And I think if he maybe looked at the project, he maybe could be persuaded to go out to Italy, where they might be able to give him more money than Real Betis. But let's see whether Anthony's game is suitable for the Italian football. I don't know. Listen, it's much slower, so I think it would suit him as well. But he won't get as much space as he does in the Spanish league.
No, for sure. And I think that he'll also not enjoy. I mean, he likes to think of himself as a technical guy, right? But he's not particularly gifted in the world of step overs and all those things. He sort of leaves the ball standing still, and just his feet, the step overs are about 8 inches above the ball.
Behind.
I mean, £85 million.
Madness.
I've seen bigger. I've seen in terms of the flops. I mean, that's got to be one of the biggest flops in Premier League history. £85 million for that bozo.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to tell you, whoever agreed to give Eric 10 months, all of that transfer kitty to repeatedly buy players that really have failed. On the whole, most of his signings that he's demanded have failed.
Yeah.
And they're paying the price for it now. Huge wages. I mean, it's absolute madness.
But as we saw yesterday on, it was on Football Heritage TV with Sava, Manchester United are head and shoulders above everybody else in the team that sells the most shirts. And that's just an example. It's one demonstration of probably 20 of their ability to utilize that brand. A brand that was forged in stone and carved in granite under Alex Ferguson, but they continue to reap the benefits of it. And so they can sort of, to some extent, afford to make these mistakes and still go again, as long as they have ambitions and intentions to do it. But right now, it's just a case of cart before the horse. If no one's willing to pay, and it's going to be fascinating to see, for me, what sort of price they get for players like Rashford, for players like Anthony, for players like Jadon Sancho. Just quickly, before we come on, I want to move on to the Rashford story for us here, Johnny. But Roy Viking is a Tottenham fan. He's been a member of the Spurs Talk Show for a long time. He's decided to join the Football Inc. membership as well. Thank you, Roy. Really appreciate that, mate. Very nice of you, buddy. Thank you for your support, mate. And as soon as we can, we're going to start doing sort of member phone shows. Yeah, and we'll be doing all that stuff as well. At the moment, we've only got a couple of members, so unless you wanted to turn up, then we might be sitting there waiting for twiddling our thumbs.
What we're going to do, though, we're going to do a score predictions each week once the season starts, and it's going to be myself and Sean versus the Spurs members. The Spurs members. So each week, a Spurs member will be called up to give their predictions for the scores ahead, and we'll score points for win, lose, draw, correct score.
It's going to be good fun. So no pressure, Roy, but you're going to be 1 week at least. You're going to be participating as the representation of.
We'll be on every week at this rate. We got a few members. We got about 6-7 members.
We have you. I appreciate you, mate. Thank you very much. Let's move on to this Marcus Rashford story, mate. So rumours were out yesterday that Bayern Munich were offered the chance to sign Marcus Rashford. That United want £40 million for the player. They offered it. They literally offered him. They went out their way to say, "Do you want our player to Bayern Munich?" Apparently, Bayern Munich haven't even returned the call, and they're not that. There's just so little interest in him around Europe because the English tax thing, the kind of the benefit in kind of having a player doesn't work in Germany. So you've got to just look at the player for the player's purposes rather than any of these other incidental kind of requirements or conditions. Yeah. And so they're not even interested to the point where they're not even thinking about Marcus Rashford. And the story that's out in the Mirror right now. Oh, wrong page. 1 second. Marcus Rashford is preparing for a Manchester United return as a transfer stalemate continues. Man United are ready to sell Rashford permanently this summer after loaning him out last season, but the club are yet to receive any formal offers for the forward. Rashford if a transfer away does not materialise in the coming weeks ahead of the club's pre-season tour to the United States. After spending the second half of the season at Aston Villa, he's free to leave Old Trafford for good this summer and is one of a number of players that the Red Devils are actively attempting to offload. But with nobody currently in serious talks to sign the United Academy graduate, Rashford may have to start pre-season at Charrington. As first reported by ESPN, Rashford is said to be preparing for such an eventuality with United back in for tests and training next month. The story goes on, but essentially the rule of thumb here, mate, is just like no one has any interest in taking this guy on because either they don't want to pay the money, they don't see the value in the player, they either find him temperamental and at risk in terms of personality, and or he and his agent are on some level saying, you know what, I am not going to sign for anybody else and dial back my wages because no one's going to take it on. So I want my full contract so you can loan me out if you want and you can pay half the wages. But that doesn't suit Manchester United in any way, shape or form. So what is the solution here with Marcus Rashford, mate? And quickly, is there a price point? Is there a price point where a team like Tottenham, who are looking for a left winger, who you have a Matisse Tell in the background, who is, someone that if it doesn't work out with Rashford, he's good enough to come in and compete. It's not like you have a baby, a child, like a nobody in the kind of rotation system. Is there a price point? Is there a situation where a team like Tottenham might go in and say, you know what, if no one else wants him, we'll have a crack at this one. But in so doing, you again roll that dice of unlocking United as a competitor.
Short answer, no. Thomas Frank has said he won't entertain dickheads. And I think that what Marcus Rashford did with the school dinners and everything else is admirable. But it seems so far in contrast to his dressing from head to toe in Louis Vuitton. Listen, I know he's a representative of Louis Vuitton, so I understand why he dresses all in that stuff, and that's great. But first and foremost, mate, you are a footballer. And let's be honest, Sean, if he was on that pitch delivering and giving us the version of Marcus Rashford that set the world alight, Sam, if he was delivering the Marcus Rashford when he first came up on the scene, there's no way that Amorim would be wanting to get rid of him. He'd be keeping him there, or other clubs would be clamoring to take him. The trouble is, Man United still want like 40 million for him. And the problem is his wages are absolutely astronomical. And most clubs, double what they would be willing to pay. So it's a catch-22 situation. And quite honestly, as well as, Marcus Rashford should be getting on and worrying about his football game, it's Man United's fault. They've allowed themselves to get in this position. So I think the likelihood is he goes out on loan and a club, Spurs were paying £170,000 a week for the absolutely useless Timo Werner. Yeah. I'm sure there's clubs out there that will be willing to pay 170 grand a week for Marcus Rashford and a loan fee, but not willing to entertain anywhere near the 40 million and the ridiculous salaries on there. So we'll have to. This is going to play out. This will probably go down to the wire, Sean. I would have thought. Maybe he'll go back to Villa if Villa can offload some of their expenses and cut their wage bill. Then maybe they can do that. Because let's be honest, Aston Villa must be favourites now for the Europa League. So, maybe with European football, he might be willing to go back there on loan.
And in so doing, though, mate, this going down to the wire thing, like, do you expect? Because I wanted to kind of ask you this yesterday, and I think I forgot. I think we sort of touched on it briefly. But remember, so Liverpool right now, we've been having this theory, you and I, that we don't know where the market is, right, in terms of valuations on some of these players, because Liverpool have come out and just smashed the granny out of their ambitions.
Well, by the way, it was 119 million, not 115 million, I think, not 100 million, like I said, in pounds.
For who? Sorry.
For Florian Wirtz.
Oh right, yeah, and they got add-ons, right? It can jump up to 140, I think it is, or something, over the years. Plus, it's a 200 million pound transfer essentially, but with the contract conditions and all that stuff with the player, it's insane. But obviously they're going off. We'll talk about the rest of their business, but they've already got Kirkes. Kirkes is essentially a deal done, and they've got Frimpong, right? So they've got the two of the most exciting fullbacks. They're about to get Mark Gahey. They've already got Virgil van Dijk. And then it's a wonderful midfield anyway. And they're looking to sell some really good players. And they probably will get decent money for them because just like Chelsea, they seem to be able to get decent yield. They sold Kwanzaa for 40 million quid. It's quite wild.
Yeah. So are they, Liverpool and maybe Manchester City are the only ones that setting the benchmarks. So 40 million for a left back for Kirkes, 115 million for Florian Wirtz.
Yeah.
Man United.
I think that the consideration here, though, mate, is that I'm pretty sure that their financial year ended a month earlier than everybody else's. So I think they are technically now, and this is all important stuff because, if you do a deal right now and your year ends in 10 days' time, then that deal has to be factored into the accounts that get sent off to the Premier League for the FFP audit. Correct. By the end of the year. Whereas if you wait until July the 1st, then it doesn't that deal doesn't get into this year's audit, it gets into next year's audit. And so
it's massively important because one deal, as Forrester found out, they delayed. Where they got into trouble was they could have sold Brennan Johnson to Brentford for 35 million and put it into that year that would have counted, but unfortunately what they did, they waited, sold it to Tottenham for 47 million and counted it into the wrong year, but put them over the threshold, and they were trying to blame Spurs.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and obviously a lot of teams, like Tottenham, obviously not a team that probably where one deal is going to really affect you. No. So I think we've got lots of wiggle room in that regard, but a lot of other teams don't have that wiggle room. And so the question mark is the delay in transfers for everybody but Liverpool? And like I say, even though City has spent 500 million quid, they did a lot of that stuff in January, right? So, and they've got miles of room. And obviously they're very confident that the 115 charges thing is irrelevant to them. Clearly we don't know what the hell's going on there. It's an embarrassment. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But if those two teams have basically made up 90% of the outgoings in terms of financial outgoings thus far, obviously, there's a recipient on that money as well. But if 90% of the money is from those two teams in the Premier League, at least, have we been kind of are we putting too much of the weight of responsibility on the idea that where's the market? And we're not sure what the precedent is. And because you've got the Guacares and you've got the Dean Delaps and you've got all these things with the kind of the other side of the coin that are suggesting it's a dampened market in terms of monetary valuations relative to previous years. are we putting too much of the weighting on that stuff, or is it really just everyone's waiting till the 1st of July so they get a clean sheet and they just go? And on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd of July, you're going to see just chaos.
Well, I think there's very much there's many things. There's many things. For example, say Crystal Palace's new New York Mets owner takes over the shares and suddenly injects money. What's going to happen when Crystal Palace go in to look at buying a player? They're going to be saying, "Well, you got money, right?" The
like
same
like a Diamandi to replace Gahey, right?
Correct, right. They'll could potentially end up paying more. If Spurs have inward investment and they announce inward investment before the close of the transfer window, suddenly all the prices, they'll be bunting the prices up. Some clubs feel that the price for strikers might be inflated and want to wait and see. And then towards the end of the transfer window, we know that certain clubs become desperate and it's revealed they need to sell to raise funds to meet their FFP and PSR. So other clubs dive in to take advantage of that. You know, sometimes going early can be a good thing, but sometimes it's not. And also, don't forget, you know, a new manager coming in has to assess his club and the team that he's inheriting. And, you know, when he gets there, he doesn't want to make a rash decision going to buy a whole load of players. He might want to look at the players for 3 or 4 games and then go into the club and say, you know what, this is no good. We need to get rid of A, B, C, and D, and I want this guy and this guy. So that's, you know, there's so many elements at play here, but I definitely think there is definitely an element of the fact that what is the true value of a top striker? The fact that Matheus Cunha, Man United's got Matheus Cunha for 61 million pounds or 61 million euros. I think that's a great deal. He's an absolute top player. So I would have thought
Premier League proven.
Yeah, Premier proven.
Scores goals by himself, doesn't necessarily need, you know, he's a team player and he's an individual maestro. So so very astute, very good business.
So I think if you're paying around 60 to 70 million pound, you're going to be quite comfortable you're not overpaying. But if you're being quoted 90 million euros or 85, 90 million euros for Gyökeres and Sesko, you might be asking yourself, well, are there better options out there? So like Arsenal, for example, maybe they don't want to pay that and they can get Ollie Watkins out for 35, 40 million, you know, because he's an old player. Anyway, we shall see. July the 1st, it should get motoring for sure.
I can't wait. You know what? June is always fun in a traditional window. You get the early business and you get lots of things to talk about and speculate, and you can join up the dots and do thought experiments. It's a lot of fun, but not a lot happens. When July the 1st kicks in, then you get the wave, and then you're only a couple of weeks away from pre-season, and then you start seeing that the content of your team, whoever you support, you start to see them on the, you know, like enjoying the weather and out, and you maybe if you're lucky enough, you get to go and see your team play a few times. Like and then the season's here, and then it's fun, mate. So we got to go through the next 10 days of boredom in all likelihood.
Well, not boredom, not on this channel. Never boredom on this channel.
Definitely not on this channel.
Do you remember when Spurs were out in the Middle East, the Far East, and we saw all the players chucking up under the training regime? What was it? Was it Conte? I can't remember.
Yeah. It was.
What was his name now?
Giovanni died, didn't he?
Giovanni Vio, wasn't it?
Giovanni Vio, yeah. He died.
They were all throwing up. Chris Riordan here says, "How do you become a member, Sean?"
There should be a join button depending on what format you're watching this on, mate. If you're watching it on TV, it's going to be a difficult one. If you're watching it on your phone or a laptop or computer, there should be a join button in the channel on the homepage of the Football Link channel. That should say join. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll try and find the link and put it in if you'd like to join. I really appreciate that. Very nice of you, mate, to ask. Paul French super chat, mate. Paul, good to see you, mate. I think Paul was in the Spurs talk show stream last night. I asked everyone to go down the road and get a few beers, Johnny, and there was like 800 people watching or whatever, and they were all going, "I've already got my beer, got my red wine. Let's get stuck in." People were saying, "Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I've just got my Uber Eats out," and so everyone got sort of tipsy together. And I think Paul was saying at the start of the show that he's got it's more transfer views, news views and spews this morning for him. He's got a monster hangover. So I hope you're not too bad, Paul. Appreciate you, buddy. Super chat saying it's like going out on the pool with your mates. Then you see a hen party. As soon as Handsome Harry has been chosen, the rest can fight over the scraps. 100%, mate. 100%. That's exactly what it looks like. I think that there's in the transfer market right now, I think that there's going to be chaos that's coming. But I don't think we're going to see well, unless, Johnny, I was pretty confident that Florian Wirtz was going to be, the first big transfer and the biggest transfer done. Do you think there's any chance that Alexander Isak might also end up moving this summer?
They're trying to build something in Newcastle.
Thanks, Paul.
They're in the Champions League. I just cannot see it. I'm sorry. I can't see it. It would be madness. Unless someone's coming in with a mental offer that they know they can then go and splurge that money over the next, the next 2 windows and buy players to fill out the void. Can't see it. They've got that really good Danish striker there that's ripping it up in the under-21s.
Who's that? Sorry, where?
Uno. Can't remember.
Oh, in Newcastle. Yeah.
Newcastle.
Doing really well in the international scene, isn't he?
Yeah. Unlike England under-19s, who went out last night having not won a game in their 3 games, which is rather unfortunate. But no, look, I see Sam thought that 40 million was fair for Rashford. Sam, 40 million is fair for Rashford, had it not been for the fact that he's on that crazy wage, and no one, very, very few clubs, if not no club, can afford £40 million and 350 grand a week in wages. It's not happening. Not happening. Like you said, yeah.
Yeah, look, I just think, for me, there's a little bit about Marcus Rashford, mate, that if Tottenham signed him, or whoever signs him, right, I don't give the credit to the player or to United for getting the deal done, but whoever takes a punt on him, like, he didn't underperform for Unai Emery. I think Unai Emery probably had a conversation with him and said, like, how motivated are you right now? And he went, I am. I need to get out of United. And I think that there would be, I think he and his agent are possibly missing a trick here. Because
100%.
The wages, sometimes you can cut your nose to spite your face. Yes, you've got a long contract earning a fortune, but we all know that you haven't earned it. You're not deserving it right now.
Yeah.
If he continues to go out on loan here, there, and everywhere and expect Man United to get paid, it's not like going down to 220 a week or whatever is going to materially change his life. But what it can do is open up another path for his career. It could be a junction, right? So he could, if he goes, you know what, I'll go for 30 million quid, and I think United would bite the hand off of someone to go 30 million quid done, and you sort out the wages. And if he was to come down to 200 grand a week, something like that, then even if it doesn't work out at his next club, at least then he has options to move on, because right now he is limited by his own greed in as much as don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, you've got a short shelf life as a footballer, earn generational money for your family. I hear you. But like 300 grand versus 200 grand, you can already afford all the cars you want. You can already, eat all the gold you fill your stomach with. All that, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, when he's 40 or when he's 60, he might end up looking back on his career and think, it didn't make that much difference to me to have that money, but it did present me with essentially padlocks on doors to avenues that his career could. He's still relatively young, right? So he can still have 2 or 3 more contracts. But if you come down again, prove yourself, then you can go off into different directions. But if you're gonna wind that contract down and get Man United to pay every penny of it via half loan deals or whatever, I just think it's penny wise and pound foolish.
He's ruining his reputation. His reputation with all the fantastic work he did with kids and school dinners was admirable, but he's ruining it with what he's doing now, holding the club to ransom and all the rest of it. And I mean, I see Johnson is miles above Rashford. I'm not sure about that. I think Rashford has established himself as a player. But when you go, Johnson is better value than Rashford. The difference is Rashford, Rashford is on 350 grand a week. Johnson was only bought for like 45 million, and he's probably be lucky if he's on 125 grand a week. There's a big difference. So easier to move on. What else you got there?
Well, big one, big story about João Palhinha, mate. So, funnily enough, Tottenham, you, me, Saba, everybody in the Tottenham community has been talking about João Palhinha forever. Not that there's been any links really to Tottenham. We didn't know. He said initially he wanted to stay and fight for his place at Bayern Munich, but today he's been strongly linked with going back to the Premier League. His agent is trying to find him a new home in the Premier League. Fulham are looking at taking him back. Manchester United are very interested in him. Tottenham, I haven't seen the links mentioning the name, but I think we have to chew this one over, mate, because he's a certain type of player. He comes with a great pedigree, comes with experience. He's not a brilliant ball player. He's not. If you're looking for, if whichever club are looking at him in the Premier League, if they're looking for a kind of an everything six, then he isn't the guy, right? But what he needs is a partner next to him in a double pivot.
Yeah,
that can be free from the responsibility of having to be shackled into tight touch, rest defense kind of man marking, and just be the guy that is always looking for the ball from Palhinha, because Palhinha is that prototypical old school six that isn't seeking out opportunity. He's sniffing the threats, and he's brilliant at reading the game, brilliant at picking up the danger, and just doing his job, winning the ball back and then handing it over to somebody who knows how to distribute it correctly. And at 30 million quid, all right, he's 30 years old, I think 31 years old. So there's not going to be that sell-on value. And so a lot of teams are probably going to sit there and think, well, how do you justify the outlay? But the outlay is recognised in the amount of points that protection gives you in the league, right?
100%. I mean, for me, I think he offers more than Casemiro, personally. In the leg department. Casemiro now, how old's Casemiro now? Is he 33? Someone
sure.
know if you check him out.
Casemiro is 33 years old. Yeah, he's got a year left on his contract. I think you nailed it when you said a couple of days ago that he's going to wind his contract down. I just can't see United selling him or giving him away. I think he's picking up, was it 350 grand a week? It's madness, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's going to wind that contract down for sure. And on that basis, why would United need Palhinha if you've already got him and you've got Manuel Ugarte, who's just a younger version of the same sort of player?
Right? I can't see him going. Ugarte, for me, I thought was really going to be a great signing from PSG. And Casemiro, funny enough, had Man United won the Europa League, which thankfully they didn't, but had they won it, Casemiro was due a big wage rise.
Unbelievable.
Some of the other members of the team. So I don't think you'll be getting any of those deals anymore with Mr. Jim Ratcliffe. And it'd be interesting to see if he wants to maintain these big signings. So Brian Obama, with rumours of 220 grand a week. At the previous regime, I reckon to entice him to sign, they probably were offering him 300 grand a week. He's probably cut the amount that's being offered now, moving forward. You won't be seeing many players being offered 350 grand a week, I think, at Man United. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot of this show seems to be about Manchester United, and that's fine, by the way. We're absolutely fine talking about it. There is another story out, though.
Thank you, Roy. Roy Vicken. He's just put there. Nice comment. Thank you. This duo and channel will be exciting to follow. I'm looking forward to joining you on your journey. You're both amazing. Thanks very much, Roy.
Thanks, Roy. Appreciate you, mate. Mate, whenever you got to let me know when you're coming over to Tottenham. I know you mentioned it last in the season, mate. I want to share that beer with you, buddy. I think you'd be able to drink me under the table looking at the size of you when you come on the... yeah, there's not many men that can drink me under the table, mate, but I reckon you might be able to. Johnny, I want to ask this question about Aston Villa, right? We know Aston Villa have got... I mean, it's a weird one because it's all very quiet on the Villa front. You know, they've got a lot of manoeuvring they've got to do. A story that's popping up from Football Insider today is that Luca Dean has opened talks with Atletico Madrid over a move. Yeah. They're preparing an opening bid of only £8 million for the left back. Lucas Digne, for me, Digne, however you say it, cracking left back, right? Cracking player.
He lives in London, Sean.
I didn't know that. Does he? Does he really?
Yeah, in London.
He travels up. He travels up the
Travels
M1,
up all
the M40 every day.
His wife and kids live in London. Yeah, I was speaking to someone the other day who lives by. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Really nice guy.
He's a top player.
Again,
really, really good player. But for me, I'm just sitting there going, is that the method that Aston Villa used to get out of their pickle? Because I mean, I don't know what he's earning. He's he had good pedigree before. Maybe he's one of their top earners. But £8 million, is it more around getting him off the wage bill? Because I'm sitting there going, is the juice worth the squeeze on the disruption? And I know he's maybe getting on a little bit, but £8 million doesn't really get them out of a hole. But they are losing a first team regular in Luca Digne. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me unless I'm missing something in the story, mate.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, what you're missing here is the 96% and the failure, the 96% spend on wages in relation to earnings. It's totally unsustainable. And if you could get rid of Luca Digne, who will, whilst not be on massive wages, he'll be on a very good wage because of his experience. And I would have thought that wage, getting the 8 million in, plus getting rid of that bigger wage, they could bring in a younger player for maybe the same, less money, with Moshi, really good talent scout, director of football at Villa.
Yep.
He could bring someone in and be paying them a fraction of that money in wages. So for me, that makes sense. I'd like to know what their wage bill in relation to income is now. Bearing in mind they got rid of Rashford and Asensio. So those two massive earners, they dropped those two out of it, and Luca Digne. And also, don't forget, Martinez is probably one of the highest paid goalkeepers in the Premier League.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Let me actually find out what he's earning. Emi Martinez.
1 second, Sean. Carry on. 1 sec.
That's right, mate. Emi Martinez wage. He's on 150 grand a week. Yeah, so you're right. Goalkeepers don't get paid the top level, but he does. Be interesting. 40 million quid is what they want to get from him. He doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. He's sort of set his heart on going to United. So if United sell Onana and then replace, even if they can sell Onana for what are we doing here? What are we saying Onana's worth, mate? What, 15, 20 million? No, he's not. He's not going to be getting more than that, is he? Like if Vicario's 25 bar, if Emi Martinez, one of the best keepers in the world, he's 31, which isn't old for a keeper.
Remember, it's Monaco, Sean, right? They might be tax-free, but they're not.
That's obviously beneficial for the player on the wages. But in terms of how much would United recoup for Onana? How much did they pay for Onana, by the way? Quite a lot, wasn't it?
Can't remember. Remember, he came off of a ban. Maybe he's still being affected by the drugs he was taking before his ban. Maybe he's still got some residue because it's certainly been messing with his brain. I mean, a lot of Man United socials and media fan groups blamed Onana for Man United losing in the final. He went for 50 million euros. Fucking hell. Well, let's put it like that. He was only valued at 35 million euros by Transfer Market, who are always about 25% under the price that players go for minimum. So if a player's worth like 15 million on Transfer Market, you're paying 20 million or whatever for him in real life minimum. He was valued at 35 million euros by Transfer Market when he was at Inter, and United paid 50 million euros for him. It's madness. What's it? I actually thought, Sean, I've got to be honest with you, when he was at Ajax, right?
I thought he was shit. I thought he was terrible.
I actually thought he was good.
Nah, he was terrible. I remember when Tottenham beat them in the Champions League semi-final. He was Clownsville in that when Lucas Moura did that dribbling around him to get the second goal back. I thought it was the first goal, the second goal. He reminds me a little bit of that Aurelio Gomez. Got worldies in him, but a bit of a clumsy clown who just clatters into people. Good with the ball at his feet, clearly, but I don't know. For me, mate, if Onana, it makes it even more difficult for the United. How do you square this circle? If Onana's going to go for like 15 million, and then they're going to go and get 40 million quid for pay 40 million for Emi Martinez. I know that the 15 million pound that they will receive, 20 million pound they'll receive, can technically expand their FFP, and they can kick the can on figuring out the details later on, all that stuff. But they're still going to be in a bind. Like, this is not the get out of jail free card that it's not what they need. They needed Bruno Fernandes. They needed to sell Bruno. If they sold Bruno, everything would have been open.
Well,
everything would have been cool.
Bruno and Jadon Sancho were the keys to the city. If they'd have sold those two, right, then they would have been signing all of these, because they wouldn't be 125 million. They would be amortizing them over the period of time, paying them over the next 5 years. They would have made 3 or 4 signings already. I'd like to see what they're going to do with Jadon Sancho. But listen, I don't think that Monaco have got more than about 15 million to spend on a keeper. For them, that's quite a lot. And they might say to him, look, we can't pay you what you're getting at Man United, but we are tax-free. So we'll pay you less money.
Yeah, it's 50%, isn't it?
I'll pay you less money, but you're actually tax-free here, so you are, in essence, be better off.
I didn't realise this until someone told me about a week ago. I think it was on this channel, actually. Someone told me in the chat. I was like, how are these Turkish teams able to get all these rock stars?
Yeah,
I think they've got a specific rule in Turkey where only footballers get a special tax dispensation. The rest of the working class out there don't. Footballers, it will let you come in on like a special tax bracket. Fucking outrageous. It is what it is.
Paul French is what's he got here now? Paulinia or Friedrup?
Friendrup, yeah, Friendrup. So Morten Friendrup is a player that Tottenham are linked with. It comes from he's a Danish guy, number 6. He's from Genoa, or he plays for Genoa.
Yeah,
he's very much a Paulinia type of player, mate. Like, you look at his stats.
I do know her. You asked me, do you know her? I do, but I don't know whether or not. I'm not sure. Is that too obvious? Thomas Frank, Danish.
Is that yeah?
Is that sort of?
I think it is. I think anyone's putting these links out now. Anyone Danish. Next we'll be linked with a pastry, bit of bacon. There'll be all sorts of Danish links coming our way.
But back at the club, yeah.
I just for what it's worth, though, Friendrup is a really good player. Really good
player. I'm just not sure whether or not.
But he's a similar mold, right? He's just a no nonsense. He's not classy. He's not cultured. He's just, I'll win the ball back and I'll hand it over to someone else to deal with it, which is fine if that's the sort of 6 that people want. And I've been making the argument for the last 3 years that's exactly the player that Tottenham need. And then as soon as you start seeing the links to that sort of player, we now move to a different managerial style that I don't think necessarily needs that sort of 6. I really don't, Johnny. Especially if the guy's going to play 30% of minutes in 30% of games in a back 3 system. Like, in a back 3 system, if you're going to have a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, you sure as hell don't need a 6 that's going to just do the job that one of the centre backs can do.
No, you don't do that. I noticed in here that Sam's really winding everybody up. I mean, we're at clubs across the board here. West Ham, United. We want all clubs in here. Here's Sam's put
what guy in here as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it says what's he put here? What club finishes 17th, wins the Europa, has a parade? A shit club like Spurs. You're hilarious. Sam, mate, you're inviting it on, mate. You're inviting it.
He's had a couple of beers probably or something. It's all good. Saturday on a Saturday afternoon, why not? Thanks for stopping, Sam. I appreciate you as well. 3187, bro. Love that, mate. Listen, let us know if you are a non-Tottenham fan. I think most people here are probably Tottenham fans for now.
We want more non-Tottenham fans. We love everyone. We don't prejudice. We don't prejudice
everyone. There are 340 people in here, though. Please do smash the granny out of the like button, guys, and hit the subscribe if you haven't already. It's great to get to know you all. We are a fledgling small channel, and really appreciate the super chat there, Paul French, and the second one, the one before that as well. I wanted to ask you about Amadou Onana as well. Links of him leaving Villa today, and Tottenham are apparently linked with him. Ben Jacobs was saying that Tottenham really like the look of him. He's another one that I'd put in that category. Pelini. He's younger. He's 23 years old, I think. Amadou Onana. Big guy, 6'5". You don't want to come up against him. Let me ask you about the profile, not so much the player. Let me ask you about the player, not so much the profile. Tottenham, I think, have sort of cultivated a team of a little bit, not just because they're younger of age, but when you have injuries to players like Romero or to a lesser extent Decky, I feel like across the team, Tottenham are a little bit lightweight. Like, I remember when Tottenham played against Newcastle, it was very much men versus boys. When Tottenham played against Liverpool in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup, that midfield we got absolutely bullied and bossed around.
6'5", big brutes just pushed off the ball, mate. You know,
you got Szoboszlai, you got Joe Linton. These guys are just monsters. And bless him for all of his tenacity and his fight. And I love it in Lucas Bergvall. He is only he's growing, but you know, he's not a man yet, though, is he?
Listen, I was privileged to get up close. In fact, in the final, when I went to get a picture, I went shake his hand. I went straight over the hoarding because I didn't notice the
you said
barrier. And he stopped me with one hand from going smashing into the ground and pushed me back.
Yeah, he's a strong lad.
He's 6'2". He's 6'2". He's been in the gym for a year. Listen, he's no shrinking violet, but Onana, I mean,
Onana's 6'5",
and he's a big unit.
He's a unit,
and he's mobile.
He's mobile. He's got an engine. He's not a terrible passer of the ball. He's looking up with a goal or two as well. He's trouble in the area. I'm just sitting there thinking, if Villa I don't want Tottenham to get Man United out of a jam. I don't want us to go and do it. But Villa, Amadou Onana, I don't mind him. He was one of my. I did a video last year on my channel.
Why are they getting rid of him, Sean? Why are they prepared to sell him?
Money. They need money. They need to get that. They need to get the right?
Surely, you know, when you look at Bailey, Martinez, there are other players in that squad.
Yeah, but they're at 93%, and they need to get that number down to 70%. Well, that's a massive chunk. And so the way that you do that is obviously get the revenue, get the wages down, which gets the numerator different. Yeah. And the denominator is revenue, right? So if you sell a player for 40, 50 million quid, that for Villa, who only have, I think, 350 million quid revenue, that's about 16% jump in their revenue, which immediately, comes on, and so
it's a strange one for them. I can see other assets that they're looking to, that they could sell. Like we said, Bailey, Martinez, Luca Digne, there are other assets there that I could see them maybe potentially selling. I don't know how much.
Would you be in? I bet this is Ben Jacobs saying this, right? And Ben Jacobs is obviously he's got more verbosity than I do, right? He'll tell a story for 10 minutes more.
He's a decent player. I would not be. I think sometimes, especially when you're in Europe, look, we have said as Spurs fans, we need a monster six. We need a monster, right? I don't feel we have a monster. Most clubs have.
We definitely haven't got a monster.
And we don't even have a proper six. Actually, Paul French has just made a comment here, which is quite interesting, right? We talk about clubs getting raped and pillaged. We all view this from a Spurs perspective. Well, you do, Paul, right? Well, we're Spurs fans, but we have to broaden our horizons. What time is his comment?
Oh, here we go.
How do you feel as a Bournemouth or Leverkusen fan? Or being pillaged? Must be awful being the host of the Leverkusen or Bournemouth culture. I mean, who's next? True. Who's the next? But when
I tell you what, mate, if you want a cultured six that I've been talking about. Well, in that video, I did a video last summer when I thought Tottenham were going to look for a monster six, and then we never ended up getting one. There were 10 players on there that I said that Tottenham should look at, and they had the likes of, it was Gomez was on that list, João Gomez of Wolves, there was Palhinha, there was Onana, there was Ugarte was one of them as well. Another name that I mentioned on that list was Ezequiel Palacios. Now this guy is a little bit of a hybrid. He's not quite as tall, physically strong, or whatever as like a Palhinha or as an Onana, but he's certainly no slouch, Johnny. He's a real sort of tenacious fighter, but his ability to ping the passes, mate, is a ratatata, and I'd love to see it. And listen, if to Paul French's point here, if Bournemouth and Leverkusen are going through a massive rebuild, but the start of that rebuild is selling players, which is what's happening. No, listen. I think Ezequiel Palacios not having played in the Premier League is a crime against football. I think he's so good. And I'd love to see him come into Tottenham. We've had a Palacios in the past. One more Palacios, Johnny?
Wilson Palacios. Philson Palacios. Listen, look, I think it would be very interesting to see what happens with Bournemouth. And I mean, Leverkusen is on another level. I mean, they've lost their manager. They've lost Frimpong. They've lost a whole host of players. Phil says, good afternoon, lads in chat. I thought you were a bit harsh on Rashford. He performed well at Villa. Phil, we did say that he performed. We did say he performed well, but we don't know what his wages would be a stumbling block. Well, I think 350 grand a week would be a stumbling block, Phil, for most clubs outside maybe 2 or 3. I've always liked him. I liked Sander Berge when he was at Sheffield United. And reading so many reports about him that he was destined for the top, I'm not quite sure why he hasn't reached the top yet, to be honest.
Oh, he'll go to a bigger club. He will.
I'm surprised he hasn't done that.
Sander Berge has filled in. He's replaced Polinia.
Yeah.
He's a different type of player, but he's a fantastic player for different reasons.
Scandinavian, Sean. That's all I'm saying.
Can't hate a Scandi, mate. You can't hate a Scandi. You know I'm a ratatata for Scandi. I don't care where they're from, what they do. I love Scandinavian people. I think that they've got this beautiful balance of just awesomeness generally. Good outlook on life. Got a new member of the show, Robin. New member. Thank you, Robin. Very cool of you, man. Become a new. So maybe we might have to start doing these. Member phone-in shows real quick because these members are piling in. Appreciate you, Robin. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to getting to know you. But I know you. I think you already remember the Spurs Talk Show as well, Robin. I think so. Looking forward to seeing you here.
Everything, all the support that we've had from all of you guys, whether you're here now or you're going to be watching this show later, we really, really appreciate. We couldn't be going where we're going without you. Actually, Sean, just a quick little pivot there. I think it's only right that we should talk about some important news for Forest, all the Forest fans. Probably the biggest news above the 2 signings. Go on.
Just before you drop it, we got my man Blaine Devlin coming in with some more generosity, mate. You are the most generous person I've ever met in my life, mate. Your support of the football community is unbelievable, mate. And you just gifted 5 more membership to 5 people in the chat, mate. I love you, Blaine, mate. You're an absolute legend, geezer. And when you get to England, you come down towards London, mate. You let me know, pal. I'm buying you dinner. Pause, not like that, but you know what I mean. In a very appreciative way, mate. You're an
like a Whopper, Blaine. I hope you like a Whopper.
Appreciate you, Blaine, mate. Thank you so much. And if you are the recipient of one of those memberships, then please say thank you to Blaine. And like I say, we'll have to start these member phoning shows because the members are growing really nicely. I appreciate you, Blaine. Thanks so much, mate. I hope you're doing well, mate. Send me a message on WhatsApp, by the way. I want to find out how your sales trip went. Johnny, talk to me about Nuno.
Yeah, so the big news is that Nuno has signed a new Forest contract. And who can forget the scenes when the owner rushed onto the pitch towards the end of the season where, Forest were capitulating. I don't know if you know the news, you might know or you don't know, but the owner, having owned 2 clubs, Olympiacos and Nottingham Forest, found himself in the dilemma, and he thought the only way out of it was to remove himself from the Nottingham Forest ownership as such, on the shareholding, so that he didn't have a clash, he wouldn't have any problem with UEFA. Little did he know that Forest, from that point on, would start to implode. And one of the games, I'm trying to remember what game it was, maybe someone in the chat can remember the exact game, but he ran onto the pitch.
Final game of the season, wasn't it? It's final game of the season.
No, it wasn't the final game. No, it wasn't. No. Don't think it was the final game. Might have been their last game.
Was it West Ham then the game? Oh no, was that Nottingham Forest? Was it the Nottingham Forest? Nottingham Forest Leicester game? Was it when they drew 2-2?
I think it was a couple of games maybe before the end.
Forest versus Leicester, it would have been. Yeah.
So he ran onto the pitch and
he wasn't allowed to.
He wasn't allowed to be on the pitch. He's run onto the pitch. I did that with my son's football once, and I forgot where I was, remonstrating with the referee. You can't do that shit. So he's run onto the pitch. He's got a fine. And there were rumours that Nuno, was being undermined significantly, and he was getting offers. There was more offers from Saudi, where we all know he was very successful. and from other clubs. And there were even offers, I think, from Roma and what have you in Italy. But no, he's resisted them all. And he signed a new 3-year contract to remain at the City ground until at least 2028. The 51-year-old who's guided Forest to a 7th place finish in the Premier League last season, securing European qualification for the first time since, I can't believe it's that long, 1995-96. Yeah. Incredible. For much of the campaign, it looked as though Forest were going to qualify for the Champions League, but they lost 5 of their last 8 games. So, you know, he was changing that. What he didn't realise, though, Sean, was that the rule had changed, and you have to log your shareholding by March, by the end of March. He didn't change his until April, right? So had they qualified, it was the Leicester game. Thank you, Peter. Had they qualified, he would have been breach of the UEFA rules, because technically he would have been a shareholder at that moment in time. So quite unbelievable.
Unbelievable, mate. But getting hold of Nuno, I'd make the arguments probably. I mean, look, they've signed a couple of potential. I don't know, like Nottingham Forest. We spoke about. I mean, I'll wax lyrical about Forest all day, every day, mate, because I love the club. I love the fact that they had this amazing history and they went through 30 years of absolute torment. I think they went all the way down to like the 3rd tier of football. They almost went out of business, and then they've climbed their way back up. And then last year, okay, you know, they fell apart in the last few minutes, but that's also part of the journey. You know, like, you know, the sort of the heart attack stuff to heartbreak. And then the ownership story. They got an owner there in the shipping magnate, the Greek guy, who is universally loved. I'm someone that is fascinated by multi-club ownership. You know, Johnny, I spend loads of time reading up and talking about multi-club ownership. There's very few owners in a multi-club ownership system that are universally loved by every by the fans of every club, that because usually there's some sort of pecking order politics and teams don't like the fact that someone else is more important or whatever else, and there's diversification of resources. This guy seems to have like won the hearts and minds, figured out the key, right? And Nottingham Forest are a team that not only that, mate, but when they came up to the Premier League, they only had 8 official first team players. The rest were all loans. And then they went through that 24 players that came in, came out. And then in the last 18 months, mate, they've got like 90% of their transfer strategy spot the fuck on. Then a couple of weeks ago, or last week, or a few days ago, whatever it was, they signed those 2 players from Botafogo, who were both signings. But for me, I think the most important signing that Nottingham Forest could possibly make this year is getting Nuno Espirito Santo's contract renewed.
100%. And let me tell you something. The owner bringing in Edu and managing to get Edu away from Arsenal to Forest. You know, he paid him and he offered him, you know, not only to run Forest, but also Olympiacos. It was a big draw. And he's going to pay that back in spades now with the signing of these two signings here. Igor Jesus has scored 2 goals for them in the Botafogo in the World Club Cup, and he scored the winning goal to beat PSG. And the Cunha, the centre back that they signed, he scored the goal. They've scored 3 goals, and those 2 have scored all 3 of them. So great signings, £30 million the pair. What's not to like? Great signing for Forest. And I actually think that this is the one competition that you can 100% rest your players, but still have a very good campaign in the Premier League. You can rest them in the conference because you're not going to play any decent teams in the conference. You can easily rest your players. Whereas, you know, the Champions League, you have to put on your strongest team out every week on the Wednesday or the Tuesday for the Champions League, and then the Premier League. Less so probably in the Europa League, but you can still field a weakened team, as Spurs and Man United did. but Europa League, the Europa Conference, you definitely can. So I expect another good season from Forest.
Mate, it's never like a dull day here. We've got a couple of stories that are breaking as we speak. One of them is that Brian Hill is expected to make his move to Spain for 15 million quid, which is going to add to Thomas Frank's transfer kitty. And so I was going to pivot across to Tottenham for a split second. Have you got a bit more time, mate? Have you got 15 minutes?
Yeah,
got a few more to get through.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Brian Hill adding 15 million quid, that's an interesting update. I kind of forgotten that he was a Tottenham player, if I'm entirely honest, but all that, every little helps. On top of that, stories out from Ben Jacobs saying that Tottenham have made an active inquiry and are readying a bid for Xavi Simons. And this is better, I say, Ben Jacobs, right? Like, can take a long time to get to the point, but his points are not normally made up or anything. He's not like a complete donut in the transfer kind of room of space. And so that Tottenham are readying a bid for Xavi Simons, mate. What's your thoughts on Xavi Simons for Tottenham? And I want to kind of like shape your answer by asking you to include even though he can play on the left and the right, he can play off the left like a lot of 10s can that are right-footed, but he's traditionally a 10. And so when you have two players that are currently injured that are traditional 10s for Tottenham now, Maddison obviously a clear 10, can't do much else, and then Decky that was a right winger that now plays more in the 10 because he's not good enough at doing what right wingers need to do. In a system with Thomas Frank where you have more like inside forwards rather than touchline huggers, do you see Decky maybe being repositioned out to the right, and then as a consequence that makes space for Xavi Simons? Because I don't know how you fit 3 10s into our squad. I love Xavi Simons, but I'm just trying to make it make sense. You're not going to sell Decky and or Maddison this summer because both of them are injured, so they'd fail any medical. So how does it all work, bro?
I just think that we look far too much into this. I hate the term, as you know, backup. You've got Champions League, you've got Premier League, you've got Carabao Cup. You play a player, say, for example, you get Xavi Simons in and he plays 75 minutes in the Premier League. You bring on Maddison for 15, or you bring on Kulu for 15. And then on the Saturday, you reverse it, where Maddison starts, he plays the 75, and then Sims. There's lots of ways of moving this around. The trouble with Spurs are we are monitoring, we are observing. There's key words as a Spurs fan when it's linked to interested, monitoring, preparing a move. There's just so many words. Until I see concrete, like he's actually on his way for a discussion, it's hard to believe. But we've been linked with about 25 different players probably in the last 2 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks. It's ridiculous. Semenya, Eze, Brian Mbuemo, the Ren striker. I mean, the list is endless. We can list them all. We had it, Kolo Muani. Where Spurs are desperate for Kolo Muani, right? And then we're supposed to believe that Matthias Tell was the deal all along. Of course it wasn't. Kolo Muani was the one they wanted. No disrespect to Matthias Tell, but Kolo Muani is on a higher plane. No two ways about it. And he showed that out in the Club World Cup he scored the other day. But look, Spurs fans have had enough. We need concrete top signings now. No more messing around. No more having to Google a player. This is the new development. Yes.
Yeah. This is Tottenham Hotspur. They literally just submitted plans for 4 new skyscrapers that are tower blocks for properties. I mean, where's Tottenham getting the money for these, mate?
Well, I told you. It's called Inward Investment, Shawnee. Inward Investment. And all of these are ring-fenced. I
might buy one of those properties, to be honest. It'd be nice to be able to get out of the stadium in 5 minutes rather than 5 hours like it currently takes me.
And listen, it's all about the regentrification. These aren't going to be the tower blocks that we sort of remember back in the day that are, they're trying to demolish now. But they're trying to build like a Wembley Way from White Hart Lane
They're gonna,
Station.
are they actually going to get the permission, the planning permission to do the underground as well that you mentioned? Do you think?
Well, so the train line is there. There is an old train line there, but David Lammy, that old favourite of ours,
is he still the MP for Edmonton? Is he on Tottenham? Yeah.
Yeah. I think,
Backhand is all it takes, mate. Give him a little backhander, cheeky little.
And you put a train station there, you put an underground train station from Seven Sisters, you put one down there, suddenly that whole area would change. Now, some would say they don't want Tottenham to change, that it is what it is, but there's no reason to not bring up an area and make it better, but make affordable housing available. Whilst nicer housing and better housing, also affordable housing for the residents. But one thing Tottenham has done is bring a lot of jobs, which is why, thank God, the council saw sense in allowing Spurs to go from 6 to 12 to 30 non-football events, which will bring lots and lots of jobs for the local community, and long may that continue. I think this is a great one. Is this going to be developed by ENIC to the benefit of the club, or is this going to just benefit ENIC and the subsidiary companies that we know lie within the ENIC group and the Tavistock group? We shall see. But they already had planning. Now, I said to you, Sean, I want to move away from Spurs, but
I've got a question for you about Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea, by the way. Because you want to finish what you were saying.
Yeah, I just want to say that, as far as I know, part of the remit for Spurs getting the 2028 stadium for the 2028 European Championships was the fact that Spurs provide a hotel. Now, we've only 3 years to go to the build. Spurs are really going to have to go to some now. If they've got the finance,
they've done the groundworks, though, haven't they? That's the meat. That's the heavy work, isn't it?
Still a lot of work to be done for 3 years, mate. It's not only you got to build it up, okay. You've got to kit it. You've got to finish it. There's lots of things to do. 2 to 3 years. It can take you 18 months to build a house, for a big house. So you can imagine what it would take to build a hotel. So
I don't know enough about property, to be honest. I don't know how long all these things take, but I want to quickly ask you this, mate. Nicholas Jackson. First of all, he apologised for his sending off against Flamengo that cost them the cut. Or he thinks he cost them the game. I think Flamengo, mate. I've got to be honest, mate. I haven't really watched too much of the Club World Cup because I find the group stages of these sorts of tournaments pretty boring. But the South American teams are really, really coming out. Like Botafogo, Flamengo, Palmeiras, they're doing the business, aren't they? They're kind of putting Europe to shame a little bit in the early stages of the cup. But just quickly, Nicholas Jackson. Obviously Chelsea are trying to find. They've already got Liam Delap in, and they're looking for another one. Whether that's Ekitike, whether that's Osman, whoever. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the coming days or weeks. But it looks like they're willing to let go of both Nkunku and Nicholas Jackson. And Nicholas Jackson apparently is on the of interest to Juventus and Napoli. Napoli, another team that seems to be linked with everybody. It's like every day we come here and have these conversations, and every day it feels like Napoli, like Manchester United, Napoli are teams that are linked with absolutely everybody. Chelsea with everybody. And in terms of the teams that are getting like ransacked, it seems to be Leverkusen. Monaco are linked with everybody as well. But it looks like Leverkusen, Bournemouth, and Rennes, and then maybe one or two others as well that are getting absolutely ransacked. So it feels very much like a lot of teams around Europe right now are going to be going through significant transitions. And whilst change is good, it brings uncertainty. If Chelsea go and change their entire front line in the same summer, in terms of the striking options, and they're looking to make sort of wiggle room around the wingers, mate, as well. Do you see Chelsea being able to kick on next year under Maresca? What's your thoughts there?
Well, I think, listen, look, Nkunku, before he came, he was one of the hottest prospects in Europe when he came from RB Leipzig, right? I mean, I thought he was going to really absolutely cause havoc. He got that ACL injury, and I don't know. It's very hard to come back as a striker from a major ACL. and we haven't seen him hit the ground running. The trouble is, like with Chelsea, these long contracts, Sean, are great unless something happens, like what happened with Nkunku. Now,
and Modric.
Yeah, now you're lumbered, right? So how do you get out of that if you want to get rid of him? Well, hang on a minute. So you want him to sell him to a club that's going to offer him a 3-year contract when he's got a 6-year contract at Chelsea on bigger money. I think they'll loan him out. Nicholas Jackson, I mean, he's so frustrating. I had him in my fantasy football team a few times. He keeps getting himself in the position. Another one of these strikers who needs X amount of shots to convert the chances. If he can get in and start smashing those chances in, then it's like Darwin Núñez. I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen that compilation of Darwin Núñez misses it for Liverpool. It's like, honestly, it should be put onto the Benny Hill show, right, where you see him missing. Because it just doesn't make sense how a top striker could miss, having cost that amount of money. I think Nkunku will leave, and on loan. And I think the only way Jackson goes is if someone comes in like Napoli with a decent bid, which would mean that will Chelsea go for an Ekitike?
Well, but more importantly, like Napoli need to make room in their own squad. Who do they have to get rid of? They can't find a new home for yet. Victor Osimhen, right?
Correct.
Where's he going to go?
Victor Osimhen wins 63% of his duels in the air.
Mate, I cannot believe that there are not clubs like that are. Again, I'm not trying to make this about Tottenham, but like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I don't know if Victor Osimhen would want to come to Tottenham. I don't really see him as a Tottenham type of player.
He can go to any club in the Premier League.
But where are the bids, mate? Where are the bids for this player? Where are the bids for Jonathan David? The guy's on a free transfer and hasn't signed up anything yet.
When he was going to Napoli, the interesting thing is,
apparently now Nkunku's going. Now Nicholas Jackson's going. What are we doing here, Johnny? What are we doing here?
I don't understand it. I wonder whether Victor Osimhen is a victim of the accusations that he made that Napoli and Italy is a racist country, and he can't take the racism and the abuse that he was getting, and quite rightly so. You know, someone should be stepping in and stopping this stuff from happening, in football. This isn't the 1970s. This is 2025. So, he went to Turkey when really, Napoli were asking for 100 million euros last year. And here we are. I reckon for 70 million euros, you could pick him up. Personally...
If Saudi were only willing to pay 70,
so
Saudi, that's sugar granddaddy Saudi Arabia, mate. Like I think Napoli would take 60 for him.
Yeah, but then my point here is, like a Rashford, an Osimhen, is the perception that he's a troublemaker the reason why no one's taken him?
I don't know.
It could be. Sean.
Maybe. And if so, I don't know what evidence there is to support that. Apart from the feedback from, people within a club that didn't support him when he faced, certain things that, I probably can't understand what that feels like. But, to me, I see him join. Like, I don't see him for what it's worth. Like, there's a profile of the player. I'm not talking about his personality. Well, kind of, I am talking about his personality, but not knowing it specifically, maybe it's a stretch here, but I can only see him joining a club that has a reckless disregard for money, and that want the best names, and that will kind of tolerate and squeeze him in, shoehorn him in, and let him be the big boy amongst other relative big boys. I could never see Osimhen joining Tottenham. I couldn't even see him joining Arsenal. I could see him joining a Chelsea. I can't see him joining Liverpool. I think he is for me, if he comes to the Premier League as a Chelsea player, really. Even Man United, maybe Man United as well. But I don't see Newcastle. Certainly, if Newcastle sold Isaac, maybe Osman would be a good replacement for half the money. But
listen,
I see him joining a specific type of club that does things a specific type of way. And for me, it's Osman. If he comes to the Premier League, it's Chelsea that I think that makes the most sense.
I think when you look at it, for what he offers, he's a very, very good signing. It's just whether or not someone wants to take a risk. Matt C at 428 super chat, Sean.
Oh really? I've missed one, have I? Oh, I've lost Jonny as well. Jonny's chopped off. I don't know where Jonny's gone, but thank you for the. It's just me. Hi, everybody. Matt C. Sorry, Matt, I didn't see this one, mate. Levy would offer Rashford a cut wage, but a part-time stadium tour guide position. Yeah, look. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't hate Marcus Rashford. I think he's a valuable player, and for a team like Tottenham that have got a guy like Matisse Tell behind him, I think if Tottenham need to go and bring in a left winger, what sort of caliber left winger do you bring in that also offers you the minutes to be able to bring in a Matisse Tell and let him develop? I think that Marcus Rashford, I'm not saying about this develop the kind of player thing. I think that's a load of waffle because I think a lot of people are saying, oh, who are Tottenham learning from? Who is Matisse Tell going to learn from at Tottenham? I'm like, I just don't buy any of that bollocks. Like, I don't think that many players that are 31 or 32 or 29 are going to spend their time like training up or coaching people that are going to take their job. It's like, I never understand when I go to the local co-op or the local Tesco's and I see the people that are employed are teaching you how to use the self-service checkout. I'm like, why are you teaching me how to use the machine that's going to make you unemployed in about 6 months? If anything, you should be making it difficult for me to learn how to use that thing so I continue to use you instead. And I don't understand why people at Tottenham, in the Tottenham fan base, and I'm sure it happens in other fan bases, say like, oh, when you've got a young kid that's coming through, who is he going to learn off of? Like, sorry, I don't see the role of a 30-year-old in reality spending time on the training ground trying to teach the kid who's going to eat his lunch, how to strike a ball purer or what to do in this situation. People look out for themselves. That's just human nature. But sorry, this was about the Rashford thing. I was talking about Rashford here from Jonny. I know you missed a few seconds. I think that if Tottenham have Matisse Tell on the left, who are you going to bring in that's better, that is also going to be able to give you the opportunity to let Matisse Tell have his own minutes to develop, not to learn from the guy. But that's why I don't hate the Marcus Rashford story, mate. I would be okay with it, but not now. I want it to be kicked down the road. If it was to happen, I'd like it to happen at the end of the window so that we're not helping Man United do their own ambition right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yellow Dean, right? When was Rashford ever been called a troublemaker, Jonny? I didn't say he was a troublemaker. I said he had issues. There were definitely issues at Manchester United with Amorim. The fact that he wasn't picked, you can't say there weren't issues. Yella. I mean,
yeah. Sam's on one today, mate. Sam, you're usually so nice in the chat, Sam. Today you're going after everybody. You're going after us. You're going after the other people.
No. I said Victor Osimhen accused the Italian crowds of being racist towards him. I'm not saying it was true. I'm saying, but there were incidents. I mean, it's not, they're registered incidents, right? So he was saying he didn't feel that the Italian league was getting hold of it. It wasn't so much about Napoli, but he didn't feel that Napoli was supporting him enough. So he had that clash with the club. Okay, so
yeah, I think the choice of words is more just around the baggage, right? Like the easier way that's kind of more impartial is like there's baggage that comes with Osimhen. Whatever the motivation is, whatever the truth is, who the fuck knows? But there's baggage that comes with Rashford. There's baggage that comes with Garnacho. There's baggage that comes with Jack Grealish. There's baggage because we don't know, but we're led to believe certain things because the media tell us certain things. And we don't know, right? None of us know like what's going on in the mind or the motivations of the players or the people that are selling these stories. But there's like baggage that does come with certain players that are not just purely about football. It's about their motivations, about what their personality is like. And we don't know. So maybe the choice of words can be, sort of molded a certain way. But ultimately, just like the word baggage, I think summarizes that there's complexities to signing these types of players.
Can I just say, guys? Can I just say in this chat, right? We will never, Sean and I will never ever be an echo chamber, okay? Where we just sit here, and we don't want you guys in the chat to be an echo chamber. We absolutely encourage debate. We encourage people to disagree, because that's what football is all about. You know, if we all agreed on everything, life would be boring. Just keep it non-personal.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, if you a little bit of advice, if you agree with me, you'll be on the right side of history. If you don't, you can be wrong as much as you want. It's all good.
Yeah, no, but listen, we love it. We love it when people are having, the chats.
Yeah, respectful debates. It's all good fun. It's all good fun.
All good fun. And Sean and I often disagree on stuff, but we shake hands at the end of it. And
always 100%. I just come trying to convince Jonny to get on the right side more often, but sometimes he just likes to stay on that wrong side.
I was right more often. But just keep it non-personal, guys.
Sorry, Jonny.
Yeah, I was just saying, just keep it non-personal. But listen, guys, however many you're in the room now, if you're not subscribed,
it's been about 350 odd people, 360 people here for most of the show. It's amazing numbers. Really appreciate it. Please make sure you smash the granny out of the button.
Hit the subscribe button there if you're here for the first time, and hit the like button if you can, even if you've done it before, because it helps the algorithm. I hate to repeat myself, but it all helps. 20 years of them. I am the mole. Daddy, you know it. And found me. I thought
the mole was fairly obvious. I thought it was planted on Serge Reguilon's lip, but we'll figure out that one. He's out of here, guys. As are we. So we're going for an hour and 22 minutes. Usually we go for an hour every day. Today we went a little bit longer because a lot of stories out there.
Just to say that Danny D, that is something that I've known for a considerable long time.
Crystal Palace will be willing to accept 3 installments for approximately 20 million for rumoured Eberechi Eze. They are no longer holding out for the majority, £68 million. Fucking hell, get it done! Get it done!
Always been the case, guys, since he signed. So we shall see.
Interesting stuff. All right, guys, please, on your way out, hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow about the same time. Every day around 3-4 o'clock, we are here. And if you are a Tottenham fan, or even if you're not, on my channel this evening on Spurs Talk Show at 8 o'clock, we've got a Levy debate. We haven't had one for a while. We're bringing in Levy-nomics Connor, who's made an appearance on this show. He's an accountant. He certainly leans Levy out. And Lubo is also joining as well. So I'm going to have to go and find myself a little bit of support from the Levy-in community to make this one a fair-sided debate. Or maybe I'll just take them on together. I don't mind. 2 versus 1 is fine when you got this, and not so much that. Guys, we'll leave it there. Like, subscribe, and comment. See you later on tonight on Spurs Talk Show. We'll see you tomorrow right here. As always, every day, Football Inc. Global total football is what you can expect. Jonny, any last words, my man?
Adios, amigos, and it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from this guy. See you tomorrow, guys. Bye-bye.